it's been hard to figure out how to even start this video, or how to even properly convey my full thoughts on this season of one of my favorite animated shows of all time. Because, yeah, it's different. And, well, for some, the changes here may be easy to get used to, or not that big of a deal. For me, it has been pretty hard to adjust and fully invest myself into every jaw-droppingly powerful moment that this story throws at you. But that's just it. Monkie Kid Season 5 is a story unlike anything I've ever seen LEGO or really any kids media tackle before. And in the end, it leaves us on an incredibly interesting note. I'm not usually one to jump to talking about the conclusion of a story first before diving into everything else, but I think those last couple of minutes really solidify what makes this season so impactful. It shows the world our characters inhabit being changed in drastic ways, the status quo being shifted, and how our characters plan to deal with that shift. MK reflects on a sentiment from Season 4 about wanting things to stay the same forever. He yearns for the ability to always be comfortable and happy without having to worry about what could go wrong or what problems lie ahead. And in a way, upon a second rewatch, it almost paints this beautiful meta-narrative with the state of the show and its animation that I know for sure wasn't intentional. You see, something I didn't realize when watching Season 4 was not only how much I could relate to MK's sentiment and many aspects of my personal life, but to my enjoyment of the things I love, this show being included. At the time, I had no reason to believe the next season would be any different, but I knew what I hoped for. I knew I wanted the show to stay this way forever, not stagnant in the story and characters of course, but consistent in the level of quality and production, and in many ways it still is, with phenomenal voice acting, stellar storyboarding, and a fun and vibrant art style. But it's kinda hard not to feel like something was truly lost with the switch in animation. I truly commend WildBrain for what they were able to accomplish and what I can only imagine to be a stressful mandate by LEGO to get this season ready in time. Them being assigned this project was probably as big of a surprise to them as it was to us, but the truth about it is, sometimes these things just happen. Business complications, scheduling conflicts, rushed releases, things can't always be the exact way you want them to be, and it's completely valid to wish for more from your favorite IPs, but things change and not everything is always in your control. As much as you wish you could just solve every problem, it can never be up to just one person. Okay, so yeah, I guess the more we dive deeper into the full themes of the season, the less it starts to really connect with this strange meta-narrative about the show's production that I've created in my head, but I put this all at the start of the video in an attempt to try and illustrate my thoughts with what is obviously the biggest elephant in the room at the moment. The truth is, I dearly miss Flying Bark, and I have a harder time enjoying the show at its fullest with the new animation. But I recognize the hard work that went into the season and still appreciate the heck out of it. It's a strange mix of emotions, for sure, but I think that's the best way I can describe how I feel. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about story. Let's talk about what makes this season of Monkie Kid so special, and why I truly think, at this point in time, it's the pinnacle of LEGO storytelling.
There's something inside you that you can't control. You know what you are, deep down. A beast. Harbinger of chaos. This thing that wants to hurt, that wants to destroy, that wants chaos. You're so terrified to let it out. But the truth is, you like it. It makes you feel strong. It's who you are. No!
Lore building in stories is not an easy thing to get right. It takes a very talented writer or group of writers to make a story that consistently presents you with new stuff that adds to the world and lore, while also blowing your mind at every turn as you begin to make connections. And boy, does this season blow my mind with how it explains previously established lore, turning our unanswered questions into baffling revelations as we discover the truth behind MK's entire existence and his role in the world. Something he's been having to grapple with ever since he met the Lady Bone Demon all the way back in Season 2. Like, if I have to sit here and genuinely wonder if something was planned from the start or made up later, you know you've done a good job at writing a world and set of characters that perfectly intertwine with each other to make for such a captivating story. But to understand why the events of the last 4 episodes of the season work so well, let's go back and examine how Season 5 further builds off of MK's struggles from the previous seasons. After the events of Season 4, MK is still far from comfortable with his new monkey form and everything he learned about himself during the events of that season. While he ended up doing the right thing and saving the world in the end, he still has no idea what plans fate has for him, and it's his dilemma that immediately starts pointing towards the overall message of Season 5. We see as MK struggles to grapple with his role in the world while feeling as though he always needs to be responsible for everything. There's a ton of weight on his shoulders that he is scared to let go of in case of things going wrong. The way we see the world operating around him in episode 1 is just the way he likes it. Him and Wukong having some fun training, hanging out with his friends, delivering noodles for Pigsy. It's the way he wishes things could stay forever, but his fear of it being any different or worse stops him from enjoying any of it, in a constant state of stress and anxiousness, unable to sleep or even think without being reminded of his past. It's a really strong way to build off of what he had been struggling with before, seeing how what happened in Season 4 truly changed how he sees himself and the world around him. Things may be back to normal, but after knowing what he knows now, it can never be the same. And of course, just like Macaque had said, this was only the calm before the storm. And in fact, Macaque had been right to be concerned about a lot of things, including MK's supposed role in the world. Nobody, including MK himself, knew what his destiny was, where he came from, or why he was here. But as Macaque points out, despite all that, everything shouldn't be up to just him. And well, for now, that seems to imply that Wukong is the one that shares that responsibility alongside him. As we see later, the message that Macaque is sending here is going to mean a lot more. So, in one of my previous videos talking about the Season 4 special, I made the mistake of claiming that MK had come to terms with his monkey form, because yeah, while he had made strides in harnessing it and becoming more comfortable using it, it was never really out of a place of peace or control, more so out of desperation and fear, and that's important to mention because in Season 5 we do actually start to see MK begin to come to terms with it, learning more about what it is and how he can work to deal with it better. In the episode Temple of the Goddess, MK starts to worry even more about his potential destiny, seeing images and even a full-on vision of what he believes to be the future, himself succumbing to his monkey form and sacrificing himself to save the world and his friends. We see throughout the episode as he stresses about the meaning of every trial he faces, wanting to make sure he chooses the right path, but needing to be reminded by Wukong that the right path isn't always the one planned out for you. Wukong insists that the future isn't set in stone, that MK has the power to carve out his own destiny, but MK doesn't truly believe him. After everything he has seen and experienced, he doesn't feel in control. Just like with what happened with Azure, his monkey form could just come back and rip away his autonomy, force him down the road that he was meant for, a road he still can't fully define. So before he can make any decisions on his future, he has to face the storm within, because just like Sandy goes on to say, you can't know where you're going until you accept where you are. And in a way I never really considered before, MK and Sandy are actually a lot alike. They both suffer a ton from past trauma that affects who they are in the present. They feel as if they have monsters inside of them just waiting to be let out. The main difference being that Sandy has learned how to process and handle his trauma in a healthy way. MK is scared to confront that part of himself, to reflect and to think on it. It terrifies him. So he attempts to distract himself by fighting or by focusing on the objective of collecting the stones, training with Wukong and working for Pigsy, but the voices in the back of his head never go away. All he does is delay it. He practically verbally confirms his coping strategy, to just bottle his emotions. Eventually though, through a trial for the second stone, he is forced to confront the storm inside himself and meditate on his past. We see how he remains scared of his monkey form, feeling responsible for Azure's death. Even the memory of the Lady Bone Demon continues to haunt him, seeing how she took control away from Wukong in the same way he feels his monkey form takes control away from him. These little flashbacks convey just how terrified MK is of losing control, but despite his fear, for the first time he finally confronts his demons firsthand, and while MK struggles to keep his monkey form at bay, with the monster inside of him attempting to convince him that he finds comfort in the chaos, he realizes that his monkey form, the so-called Harbinger of Chaos, is merely just a part of him, rather than all of him. And the best part of this episode for me is that MK doesn't just figure it out and make his fear go away forever, because it isn't that easy. He accepts that what he faces is difficult and that there are parts of him that he doesn't like, but that he must work on himself every single day in order to become the person he wants to be, rather than the person he fears destiny will have him become. The monster never goes away forever, but the monster isn't who you are. It's what you choose to do that defines you.
You're right, you know. It's scary being alone. I do pity you. I told you. It all leads to pain. Your purpose was laid before you from the moment of your creation. The only way anyone survives is if you don't.
While MK may have made small steps in coming to terms with the storm within himself, he still has a long way to go and hadn't yet come to terms with his potential future, still unable to separate his fate with his own actions, a struggle that would come into full force in the episode Into the Pagoda. This episode is the one that truly proved to me how insanely impressive and mind-blowing this show's writing could truly be. Seasons 1 through 4 had some fantastic character work and lore building, but the stuff that this episode reveals about our main character is on a whole other level. In the past, I've praised episodes such as Shadowplay and Pitiful Creatures, among many others, for really diving deep into the psyche of MK's character and his potential impact on the world. These often being my favorite kinds of episodes in the show. And Into the Pagoda takes that same exact idea to a whole new level as we finally learn what MK's true purpose actually is. And it's not pretty. Remember what I said earlier about a reveal so crazy yet logical that it makes you question if it was planned from the start or was thought of way later? Because yeah, this is what I was talking about. In the episode, MK finds himself at the mercy of the 100-eyed demon, traveling back through his memories only to confront the Ladybone demon once again. Only this time, instead of being a more metaphorical personification of MK's doubts and fears, she literally is a personification of MK's doubts and fears, much like the Ink version of himself he fought against in Season 4. Just like with the Curse of the Scroll, the 100-eyed demon brings MK's greatest fears back to the forefront, but this time with the ability to actually bring back long-lost memories of his past, allowing him to finally see the truth of his entire existence. That his sole purpose in the world was to die. Yeah. That's the reveal. And instantly, everything makes so much sense. MK wasn't meant to live out his life to the extent that he has. He wasn't created for the purpose of sticking around and protecting the world against powerful villains. He was meant to literally give himself up to save the world so that the cycle could be reborn anew. From the moment of his creation, this was his purpose, laid before him by Noir herself. He wasn't even meant to be woken up until the cycle's end. His whole life had been an unforeseen circumstance, being at the center of every conflict because he was slowly guiding the world towards a premature end. His destiny wasn't laid out from the moment he had picked up the Monkey King's staff like he had thought. No, it was laid out for him from the moment he was created. Enter Zhang Liu, the nine-headed demon, or just Nine as I'll be calling him. Nine is Wukong's message about choosing your own path, taken to its biggest extreme as he rejects Noir and the idea of destiny so much that he woke MK from his stone early so that he could have the chance to live his life and stand at the end of the cycle to make his own choice. But even then, MK still wasn't convinced that he had one. This entire time, MK had been told what he was and now what he had to do. In his mind, there is no choice. He is so hyper-focused on the consequences of not following the chosen path that he is willing to sacrifice himself just to keep his friends safe. Even when everyone is telling him that there has to be another way, he doesn't believe them. All he believes in is destiny. The idea of destiny has been drilled into his mind from the moment he met the Lady Bone Demon. It isn't until he actually jumps into the Pillar of Heaven and meets Noir that he finally starts to piece it together and realize the mistake he had made, and that Macaque was right. Everything shouldn't be up to him, nor should it be up to one person. Noir, just like MK, thought what she had been doing was for the best, handling everything herself in hopes of a peaceful life for her children, refusing to hear out any other better options or solutions. Her conversation with MK reveals how she's willing to make sacrifices on the behalf of her people to protect them from the chaos beyond at the cost of them being free to live out their entire lives to completion before the cycle abruptly ends and begins anew. Just like MK, she thinks she is making the right choice, the one and only right choice. But what she fails to see is that it isn't all up to her. Nobody can handle the responsibility of the entire world alone. Not Wukong, not MK, not even Noir. It's a responsibility that we all must share together. And with that realization, MK finally stares his destiny in the face and denies it, arguing that the people of the world aren't weak and that they don't need protecting, that they can handle whatever the future may throw at them, and that no matter what happens, they should be free to make their own choices. And in defying destiny, he is no longer the harbinger of chaos, but the Monkie Kid. And in the end, by separating the stone's powers, the people of the world work together to reclaim it. Monkie Kid Season 5 is yet another season of Monkie Kid with an incredibly powerful message, this time being about the importance of making your own choices and not being scared to travel off the beaten path, to discover something new in the face of change, and to not be afraid to face challenges together as opposed to on your own. But what makes this season's story stand out to me so much more is how it delivers that message, finally unraveling the cold, hard truth about MK's creation and really bringing him to his absolute lowest point. The story is able to gain so much raw emotion off of the premise of MK's sacrifice. We see how scared Wukong is of losing him, willing to stare death in the face just to keep him safe despite how terrified he is of losing his mortality. And watching as MK uses the spell of the circlet against Wukong shows how desperate MK was to go through with the sacrifice. And you almost have to wonder, with everything that went down in Season 4 about MK feeling like he only caused more pain to those around him, if he really thought his friends would be safer and happier with him not around. Because, yeah, with everything we had seen up until that point, it really seems like that could be the case, and if so, that's just heartbreaking, and adds a whole other layer to the events of the second half of the season. Not only is this a story about coming to terms with parts of yourself that you don't like, and gaining the strength to stand up for yourself and make your own choices, but it's also a story about learning to accept yourself, despite what flaws you may think you have or what struggles you go through. It really subverts the trope of heroic sacrifice by showing that no matter what happens, your life is always valuable, and taking that away is never the right choice under any circumstance. There's always another way. And for a LEGO show to tackle a topic as heavy as that is unbelievably commendable. I was already tremendously impressed with Ninjago's ability to beautifully cover the topic of anxiety with its first set of episodes for Dragon's Rising Season 2, but Monkie Kid really tackled something I never expected from a LEGO theme and tells its story in a way that I think truly makes it the pinnacle of LEGO storytelling. Wow, what a season. There is still a ton about the season I didn't touch on as much as I would have liked, such as 9, Wukong, and my thoughts on stuff like May's episode and such, but I wanted to allow this video to kind of act as a third part to my videos on MK's journey, as well as correcting the mistakes I made with the video on the Season 4 special, since, yeah, this season made it pretty obvious I interpreted MK's monkey form pretty incorrectly at the time. There's still a lot I want to cover with the show, including going back to some of the earlier seasons, since I don't think Season 1 and 2 in particular get enough praise, and I know a lot of you are hoping I make a full-on Wukong analysis, so we'll see what happens. All that's to say, I still plan on making a ton of Monkie Kid videos, on top of releasing an entire fan EP. That's right, the EP will consist of 6 instrumental rock tracks, each song based on a character from the show, with the first track of the EP, Harbinger of Chaos, releasing on September 6th. So yeah, feel free to check that out when it releases. If you're a Monkie Kid fan, I'm almost certain you'll enjoy it. But with that said, that's gonna be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all around. Goodbye.